Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben's award-winning podcast, as voted by Grow Your Own magazine and by my followers and listeners. So if you're new to the podcast, make sure you click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our podcasts, listen back to all our previous episodes, sit back, grab a brew and let's enjoy today's episode. Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben. For a new episode. Well, today it's Wednesday, and yeah, the weather has certainly been warming up. It has here in Sheffield, and unfortunately I was working yesterday, so I didn't manage to get out in the nice warm weather, but I'm off at the weekend and the weather looks like it's still going to be staying warm, so that means time to get lots and lots of jobs done down at the allotment, which I'm certainly looking forward to already. And this nicer weather certainly makes you feel a hell of a lot better than the dark, miserable days. And yeah, it really does help your mental health being out in the allotment and being in the garden in the fresh air. Now, I am certainly feeling inspired. Now, if you didn't see my post on Facebook and Instagram last night, if you have not watched Love Your Garden, Grow Your Own, what was on ITV last night, make sure you watch it on catch up, because it was a fantastic episode. It was hosted by Alan Titchmarsh and it had Kate Garraway in it as well, and yeah, it certainly inspired me more for my gardening and to try new things, because Alan Titchmarsh, he's been gardening for years and years and years. He's one of the legendary gardening shows, somebody that's been around for much longer than anyone else on the TV, as you all know. And he was turning a plot of land on his garden into a kitchen garden. And obviously you think, oh, it's Alan Titchmarsh, he'll know everything about gardening. Well, he didn't know everything about growing veg, which amazed me, because he were planting seeds and plants that he'd never heard of before, or different varieties that he'd never seen before. And it just goes to show that full-time gardeners and celebrity gardeners don't know everything. And he was showing new vegetables, what he was trying. He was trying some radish, what are meant to be like watermelons when you cut inside them, the colour of them, and yeah, those absolutely failed. He showed the results of them and they did absolutely rubbish, but it was good because he was showing that not everything works when you do gardening. Not everything is successful, and you can have failures when gardening, and quite a lot of us do. And sometimes these gardeners will only show you all the good things, they won't show you the failures. But Alan Titchmarsh last night, he was fantastic. He just said it how it was. He wasn't using technical terms or anything like that. He was straight down to the mark. And that's what I get a lot of people saying to me, that I'm not over the top with technical stuff. With gardening, it's all basic stuff what I talk about, and that's what I find passionate about it. I've not done any degrees on gardening or got any qualifications on it. It's all stuff I've taught myself. Yes, I do want to learn more about gardening and different stuff on gardening, but I'll do that over time, and I'll keep learning bits more all the time. And that's what I'm doing as I'm doing these podcasts. I do look up stuff and I do research stuff, and if there's a new vegetable that I'm trying to grow, I'll read about it and I'll look it up, and obviously then I'll feed it back to you as well. And he tried some new strawberries, which are called pine berries, and they're a white strawberry, and you're meant to plant them with red ones to help them pollinate them. And yeah, he never actually showed the results of them ones, so whether they actually grew or not, I don't know, or whether I missed that bit in the episode. But I know there's pineapples as well, what taste of pineapple as well. I think they're the pineberry ones. But yeah, there's new varieties coming out all the time, and he showed these what are meant to be meter long beans, what they grow in America. And literally the plant was a little stub. It did absolutely shocking. It was a rubbish outcome whatsoever, but it was great to see him try stuff and it fail, because yeah, stuff does not work all the time when gardening. And he was showing that he was growing 60 different varieties of fruit and vegetables in this small area, and it was fantastic to see him making full use of all his garden. And he'd not spent loads doing it all. He'd just created some raised beds and filled them with compost, and yeah, he just gardened. He didn't spend thousands of pounds doing it all up and getting it ready. It was quite basic, but then he was explaining more about growing your own tomatoes versus shop bought tomatoes, and he did an example. He cut a shop bought tomato in half and a tomato that he grew himself, and he just showed the difference of what it looks like when you grow it and how juicy they are when you grow them, because like he said in the show, is that when you actually grow vegetables yourself, you pick them when they're ripe and when they're most juiciest and ready. Whereas if you buy shop bought vegetables and fruit, they pick them before they ripen. And that is true because they've got to pick them before they ripen so that they can send them and ship them over, and they'll be ready in time for you to eat them. Because if they picked them when they were ripe, they'd be rotten by the time you bought them, so they wouldn't be ready. And that is why homegrown fruit and vegetables taste so much nicer than the shop bought ones. And it just goes for any sorts of vegetables. And he was growing courgettes, and he says, yeah, they don't look perfect shapes, but you're not buying them from a supermarket, you've grown them yourself. Why do you have to have perfectly shaped fruit and vegetables to sell in a shop? And possibly the reason is because people only buy, they're that used to seeing proper looking vegetables that they don't buy the disformed ones. And I know one of the supermarkets, they started selling wonky vegetables, and they were selling them cheaper rather than the farmers losing the money and wasting all the crops because they've grown wonky. Farmers can't help it if something grows wonky, or if it don't grow straight, or if it grows a bit uneven, and they waste loads and loads of vegetables chucking it away because it's not a perfect shape for the supermarkets to sell them. And it just baffles me how much stuff is wasted through growing your own stuff. And there's a charity in Sheffield, it's part of the Food Works, I think it is, and they ask allotmenters to grow one bed for them so that they can have the produce to help people that are struggling to buy meals and that are homeless and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a fantastic idea. And when you're growing your own veg, you will have an abundance of stuff, and you won't be able to eat it all, so it's good to support charities as well. So that was Alan's own garden. And then they started talking about Kate Garraway as well. And as you will know, Kate Garraway, her husband, was probably one of the worst survivors' husbands from COVID that survived a bad experience and is still suffering now. And she was showing how much she's started getting into gardening, and she's transformed her garden to make it more better for the mind to eat, for aromatherapy and stuff like that. And she created this tea garden so that she could use the herbs and bits in her garden to make teas and stuff like that, and make the full use of them. And she'd also created a patch for medicines and to use to make oils, and she showed an example of where she'd grown some lavender, and she dried the lavender out, and then she put the lavender in with some vodka, and she made her own room spray out of it, and she said it smelled absolutely fantastic. And I never knew that lavender was used in the olden days for antibacteria. They used to use it and rub things down with it, and it'd be an antibacteria. So it's stuff that I learned. I learned so much from that TV show. It was amazing, and it was good to see as well. She was planting stuff as well that I'd not heard of before, and there was a berry what she planted called the honeyberry, which I'm going to look into getting for my allotment, and it's meant to be like a cross between a blueberry and a raspberry, I think it was, something like that. But it's crossed between two fruits, and it's meant to be the 3 times better for you than a blueberry, and blueberries are classed as one of the best fruits out there. So I'm going to get one of these honeyberries for my plot. It certainly got me into getting them, and it was fantastic. I really can't speak highly of the episode. So much that I learnt from it, and also it was good to see Alan Titchmarsh using. They showed you the seed packets, what he was that he'd used, and some of them were advertised as the branding. Obviously they got paid to advertise them ones, which was Sutton's seeds, but some of the packets had a yellow bottom on them, and I know those packets are from Kitchen Garden magazine. So it just goes to show Alan Titchmarsh gets them from these magazines as well. And one thing that he did point out from this episode is that you can try growing stuff what you wouldn't see in the supermarkets, varieties you would not see. And that is the thing that I always go on about when I'm gardening, is that you're growing stuff you wouldn't see in the supermarkets, different varieties. And that's why I tried the purple cauliflower, because I got it free in a magazine and I absolutely loved it. It grew tons better than the white cauliflower. It was fantastic. And one of my followers messaged me and asked me to send them a link to this purple cauliflower because they could not see it online. So I just searched through on Amazon and sent them the link. But it's good to see a celebrity like Alan Titchmarsh getting back to basics and encouraging people to grow stuff on their allotments and in the garden. Now, I put it out to my Facebook followers and Instagram followers last night and said, have you been watching it? It's fantastic. And obviously a lot of those on my Facebook and Instagram are keen gardeners as well, and they were just going on saying that there's so much to learn from gardening. You never stop learning. There's so much out there to learn and new stuff to learn, and everybody was encouraged by this TV show. It was so amazing, and I've just got to say that it's really good how they got inspired from it. Everybody in the Facebook comments were saying how much it's inspired them to get started in the garden and encouraging them to get going and get growing again. And the sort of stuff what I saw in it, it's certainly inspired me. I'm going to be watching that episode again and making notes on it and trying to use some of the tips that Kate Garraway and Alan Titchmarsh said in this episode, and try and learn from it and try and do some of the things that they've grown in it as well. So I'm going to be adding more things to my shopping list to add to my allotment. So watch this space over the coming months as I try and get some more stuff for my plot. And yeah, I do recommend that you do watch this episode from last night. You'll be able to find it on the ITV Hub if you've not seen it. And yeah, let me know if you watched it. Send me a message. Tell me what inspired you from the TV show and what you found best from it. It's always great to hear feedback from listeners and followers. I really do appreciate it. And if you've not subscribed to this podcast channel yet, please do click that subscribe button or follow button. It's great to see so many new people following me. And yeah, I do look at the stats and I do keep track of what people are saying and who follows me and stuff like that. So thank you very much for that. So also, if you've not checked out my latest YouTube video as well, go on YouTube and search for Gardening with Ben, and you'll be able to see a plot tour of what my allotment's looking like so far this year. And I'm so amazed with how well it's coming on this year. I can really concentrate on putting all this effort that I'm seeing on these TV shows and stuff like that into my allotment and reaping the benefits. And I'm definitely looking forward to reaping the benefits this summer from my allotment. Now is the time to be putting in the effort into the plot and enjoying every minute of it. The weather's getting nicer. Make the most of it. Get out in the garden, get out in the fresh air. It's good for the mental health and good for the well-being. And if you've got children, encourage them and get them nurtured into gardening. They may not seem fantastically interested at this time of life. Some may really enjoy it and love to pick the harvest and the crops and get everything from it. But then later on in life, they'll think about it and they'll come back to it and they'll carry on doing what you taught them. And that's something that will last with them forever. So get children gardening and get them enjoying it. So until next time, please do click subscribe. We will see you at next episode. And remember, keep smiling, keep gardening, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcasts. So thank you for listening to today's episode of Gardening with Ben. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Remember to do click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our podcasts. Feel free to share them on your Instagram stories so that it spreads the word about my podcast and we get lots more listeners. Feel free to check out my social media sites, Facebook and Instagram as well, Gardening with Ben, and also my YouTube channel, to stay up to date with all my handy videos, how-to videos, and sharing my tips and advice. And feel free to check the link as well in the description for my Gardening with Ben t-shirts. Lots of funny gardening design t-shirts in there for you to purchase at great prices too. So thanks again, and as always, remember, keep smiling and keep gardening.